Hey everybody, Natalie Cutler-Welsh here from Go-To Girls Social Media and Networking. I'm all about helping women entrepreneurs have more fun and flow in their business. And I'm so thrilled today to introduce you to Dame DC Cordova, who I met at Money and You. So I've just finished doing the weekend and I'm thrilled to have her here. DC, it would be so wonderful if you could introduce yourself, tell people a little bit about how you got to be the CEO of Money and You.
Okay, well, pretty much I grew up in the legal system and I was very successful at 24, and then I became very unhappy and I had what could be called an enlightenment experience, and I really got in touch with that I was here in the world to do something much more than just to be a party girl, which is what we do in our 20s. And I was very, very successful. So I went looking for something for me to do more. And I attended the first business school for entrepreneurs of its kind. Later, they designed the Money and You program so that I could have a job, so to speak. And through a series of circumstances, I became a partner. And in 1985, received all the rights, got Robert Kiyosaki of Rich Dad Poor Dad to be my business partner, and the rest is history. I've been doing this for 36 years, and we were the pioneers in experiential learning and using left and right brain teaching techniques and different games and exercises for people to learn about businesses and about organizations and how to clear themselves so that they have a high level of deservability in order to create the level of wealth or comfort that they want for themselves and their families.
And how many people have been impacted by the program?
Well, millions, because over 100,000 people have attended. But one of the things we do is we churn out social entrepreneurs. So if you look at Tony Robbins, whom we trained when he was 23 years old, you look at Robert Kiyosaki, Rich Dad Poor Dad, Paul Mitchell, the hairdresser, Ben and Jerry's, you know,
the ice cream.
The ice cream, who became a social entrepreneur. So this is a thing that we like to do, which is to churn out social entrepreneurs and then kind of drop little pebbles in the pond and have the ripple effects of this work going all over. So we couldn't possibly measure it, and this is one of the principles that we teach at Money and You, that if you really commit yourself to the betterment of humanity and keep doing good things, you will have your work, your influence will be impacting the whole world.
I love that. One of the phrases I've been using lately for myself is an impact entrepreneur, because I've always had this thing, I want to make a difference in the world, and I realized lately that I can't just keep going and trying to do it on my own. So I'm trying to draw towards me and surround myself with people that have that same burning desire.
Yes.
And I definitely met some people like that at Money and You, which is brilliant. And one thing I wanted to say is, because it's a bit of an investment in time and money for people to do it. So, and I know my husband had to look after the children so I could attend, but already in 2 days I made back the money that I spent just being there. I know, and I haven't even begun to tap into the networks. Like, that wasn't even the people in the room.
Yes, right.
But I know that one of the amazing things about Money and You is the connections that you make, like the genuine connections being there. But then from a networking perspective, the people that you can then not get access to, but meet as a result of being a graduate of Money and You. And I'm all about networking, so I love that.
Actually, you said two things.
Yeah.
One of them is, yes, you do get access to them. You know, that's my new definition of wealth.
Okay.
Is to have access to networks, to experts, to people, to money, to information, people that can really support you. So access to is actually wealth. The other thing is that it's really important to remember that you literally, the reason you did so well with your sales is because the clarity that people get, and there's a whole other level of confidence that occurs where people now begin to feel a lot better and clear about what they do. And when we're that clear, then there are people that are attracted to us. They want to do business with us, and especially when you have a pure heart like you do. I mean, if you just exude that you really want to be of service, and for people like you, you totally understand that finances and money is what we call a precessional effect. It's a ripple effect. So that is the power of being that clear, and that's what Money and You does for people. And as you know, we have an agreement that you can't make any major decisions for 7 days.
Yeah.
Because people come out of there so clear and they know that they have to do certain things. but we don't want for people to not think about it and stay with it. Remember, one of the keys to success is never, never, never make any decisions, major ones, when you are emotional. You don't need to be sober.
Right.
Yes, sober of wild, emotional
And not in that
outbursts.
reactive state.
That's
Yeah.
right. That's what we call sober.
So I wanted to ask you while I've got you here. So for me, I know you know a little bit about my business and what I do. What type of advice would you give me to grow my business, but also grow the impact that I can have on the world?
Well, I really believe that you have a beautiful book already, and so that really helps. And you may want to have a new one. I would definitely recommend that. And only because now you have grown since you wrote that one. But you don't have to do business books. I think that a lot of times women get confused and that they have to do something or they have to wait until they have millions. Really, everyone has mastery over something. So what is it that you have mastered? What are the distinctions that you now have? And you can even call it part 2. Distinctions that I got from, go ahead.
No, it's so funny. I mean, the book is called If Only They Told Me. It's about parenting.
Yeah.
Right? So I'm one of two. We co-authored it. And now I feel like I could write a business book, but it wouldn't be about social media. It would be about what I call like #juggling the mother load.
Yes.
Because this is something I'm so passionate about. Running a business while
Yes.
raising a family, which
Yes.
is a true art, while also not losing yourself in the process.
That's right.
Because I think as mothers, we quite often, we say we're good multitaskers, right? But we often put ourselves at the bottom of the heap.
Yes.
And the lowest priority. And one of the it wasn't even a breakthrough because I knew it, but it really reaffirmed for me on Money and You. And part of the reason I got so emotional is because realizing I've always wanted to change the world, but I feel like in order to do that, or I see now that in order to do that, I need to look after myself.
Yes.
Better, like my health.
Yes.
And my be time. I talk about me time and be time.
Yes.
Yoga or meditation, that
Yes.
type of stuff. Instead of just rushing around all the time, trying
Yes.
to do more
Yes.
and get more done,
Yes.
which is, I talk a lot about that. I call it
Yes.
GTD, getting things done.
Yes.
As a mother, we're trying to do that all the time, and I think if you look after yourself and make yourself a priority, then procession, those things will fall into place.
Yes. Well, one of the things that I have found is that the best business women that I have met have been mothers, because they have learned how to juggle things, and they do know multitasking. Please don't let all these people that talk about that there's no such thing as multitasking, that is not true. That is absolutely not true. I've seen women, certain men can really multitask, most of them cannot, but women definitely can. I can be doing 5 or 10 things at the same time, and I'm completely focused on all of them. And so when people say, oh, you can't really do that and you're not really doing it well, I just kind of like look at my results and I think that I know what I'm talking about. And the other thing is that mothers really learn, like prioritizing, which is key in business. And the other thing, just to come back to what advice I would give you, I would highly recommend that you also really get women to understand that they are standing on the shoulders of some amazing sacrifices, and that they don't have to make them anymore. We are in the 21st century, and to really feel your heart, to really feel your gut, to really speak up, to really be honest with your partners, whether it's a female partner, a male partner, whatever it is that you have in your life. And when something is not working, when you know in your gut that this is going to be a disaster anyway, that you speak up as quickly as you can, and then really use that intuition that has been given to us, which is much greater. They don't know whether it's really intuition or they did these studies. I love brain stuff. I love learning about the brain plasticity, and all the different things that are constantly being found, but we still don't know a lot about the brain. But they have dissected it, they have really looked in. And there is an area in our brain that it's the emotional part that is much larger than men's. Some men have it, but most men don't. So that same part of our brain that really can be a bit emotional is the same one that's also extremely intuitive. There's all these studies out there they have done. So I would say to you to really teach the women not to compromise in that you might as well have the strength, have the courage to make the tough decisions early in whatever situation early, whether it's in business, in personal relationship, having parameters with your children. If there is something that you know that is going wrong, you have to go in there. If you need to, you put that computer in the living room because you need to be, you are the mother. You know, children don't really grow up until they're in their 20s, you know. And so that's one of the things that I want to encourage you and for women to understand that they are standing on the shoulders of tremendous sacrifices that only happened, like for me, even when I was in my 20s, when I saw all these different things that women just completely abandoned themselves and supported husbands and brothers and other people, thinking that they weren't as capable, as intelligent, or have the ability to learn business. I mean, there are some magnificent business women there. And one of my favorite books is Lean To, you know, Sheryl Sandberg of the Facebook executive. Lean In,
yeah.
Thank you, Lean In. I love that book. And she was very real. You know, she was really sharing information about what is really happening in the world. And one of the things that I share, that sometimes people get very upset with me, but this is my experience and I think it's the truth, which is that there's no country on the planet that women are equal. It hasn't happened yet, so we do have to work harder, we do have to study harder, we do have to try harder and strive harder, but you also need to learn how to have very clear rules of the game, which is what we teach in Money and You. You need to go into situations knowing what your parameters are, establishing the rules of the game and how you're going to participate in that business. And yes, you will have to work harder, and hopefully by the next generation that would have changed, but it's still something that we need to go within, get very strong, get power up with entrepreneurial education. Money and You will really accelerate that, and then have the ability to be able to stand on your own authority and speak the truth before it becomes a huge learning experience, which of course, you know, we'd really like to teach in Money and You.
I think one of the things I loved is how you talked about the difference between compromise and resolution.
Yes.
And you were mentioning before, women in the past have just compromised. They've been
Yes.
there for the kids, there for the husband, and not prioritizing their own needs.
Yes.
And I think women nowadays things are changing, right? There's
Yes.
a changing around putting themselves, well, not putting themselves before the husband, but just as a couple doing that dance about
Yes.
like, what do I want for my life? What do you want? What do we want? What are our values?
Yes.
And create lifestyle design, creating
Yes.
the life together rather than just falling into that, like the husband works and the wife doesn't follow her dreams.
Yeah, I think it's all about communication and about getting the fact that we are now in the 21st century. And, you know, I'm from California. I'm originally from Chile, so I'm South American. And one of the things that I like to remind everyone that there are generalized principles that run the world, that run our lives. There's a lot of outside things happening, like changes in the environment, there's changes in the energy, time is picking up. So then there's also certain pressures, but the great news is that the feminine energy is beginning to take over more in the world. So we have to be prepared for that, because it's the more cooperative, we are collaborators, you know, we find ways to support each other. And one thing I want to recommend that you do right, and tell women not to compete with other women, not to put them down. Don't steal other people's relationships. Don't go after their men. Don't do things that you would not have done unto you, because the karmic shift is that then you become so afraid of that, and then your energy and your power gets weakened. And you have to focus on income generating activities. You have to understand leverage in order for you to create the level of wealth that you want. And that is possible, absolutely possible. But you have to have understanding of it. That's what we do in Money and You. We teach the business success model. We teach about rules of the game. We teach about leverage. We teach about the different personality styles.
I love that.
Yeah, communication, and how are you going to build an empire.
So for my community, the ladies in the Go-To Girl community, and wider, further afield, how do you think that they can benefit from Money and You, and how can they find out more? I know you've got a video series that they can look at.
Well, we definitely, and what we want to go is moneyandyou.com, excuse me, that code that ends it.
Mm-hmm.
Why do they use code? I don't know, but I will remember that. moneyandyu.co that ends it.
Yeah.
And so you can find out a lot about that. There is a downloadable piece there, which is called the 4-session business makeover.
That's it, yeah.
And then they'll have an opportunity to study for 4 hours with the first person is a woman, talking about being the CEO of your own life. So it's really good. The second one is Dominic, your trainer, who was actually talking about leverage, which is excellent. And then, and so those 4 hours, you'll have an opportunity to speed up a little bit more with entrepreneurial education. And if you can access the different Google Hangouts that I have done, there's also ongoing education there. But more than anything else, what we'd like them to do is come along. Please invite them to come to one of our previews that we do right here in the different cities, here in the different towns in New Zealand and also in Australia. And have them come in for the evening for just a couple of hours to see how experiential learning works, and also to see that there's a whole other way of living life where you really can have what you want. You know, people say, well, you can't have it all. Well, it depends on what all means. I find that most women are not that selfish. For them, all is to have a great life, good education for their children, a great love life, a wonderful person to love them, and have good education for their children, have some savings, have a beautiful home. So for most people, that's all, you know. Sometimes people go over the top with this all conversation that they're going to want to have mansions and you know, many cars and travel the world and all that. Yeah, people want to travel the world, but not like I travel the world. I'm on a mission. You know, I'm about transforming educational systems around the world, eradicate poverty and hunger. I started when I was 27 years old. I'm a little bit of a different type of woman, and I knew very young that I was going to be making some sacrifices, that I really had to think about whether with my lifestyle, if I could really settle down and have children and be married. And I had those choices, and I had people in my life, many in my life, that could have done that with. And my destiny was something different, but I'm an unusual person. Most women, most men want to just have a beautiful life. And that's something that, and some people don't. Some people really want to go out there and become billionaires, and usually they do.
I think also, though, most people want to help. They want to. They want to make a difference. Would you say?
Absolutely.
In some people, in huge ways, and travel the world, like you, a global nomad, you know, traveling around. Other people, like me, I'm from Canada, but I'm happy where I am. I want to do 1 or 2 trips a year, but I still want to make a massive impact.
Absolutely.
I don't feel like I need to go all over the world at the moment, at the stage I'm at with my young kids, to do that. That'll come later.
Yes, and making a difference is key. That's definitely, that for me is the number one piece. If you're depressed, you're not feeling good about yourself, you're too heavy, you're drinking too much, your heart is broken, go and serve somebody. Go find someone that's in much deeper pain than you are, and it won't be long before you begin to be much more grateful for your own life and snap out of that. The action and going to be loving and supportive of another is the best way to get out of any depression. It's better than any antidepressant.
Well, one of my mottos is give, give, get.
Yes.
Because as women, we tend to, a lot of the time, give, 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 give. And we need to make sure we give, give, and get something back in return to fill our own cup, so to speak. And I think, yes, definitely go and give to other people, but also make sure that you look after yourself on the journey is really important. So I always invite women to step up, you know, if you're ready to have more impact, and you know, put yourself out there if you're ready to shine. And I think Money and You was such a perfect way for me to do that. And next time, I mean, there were a lot of women in the room. Next time, I'd love to see more women in the room, and some of my ladies in the room. And I'm actually going to be bold enough to say I'd love to sponsor a spot to one of my women in my community. And as well as I've got a list a mile long of people I'm going to shoulder tap to encourage them to go. I mean, it's their own choice, but I think
we can do a Zoom.
We can do a Zoom
with them from wherever I am. After the 17th, I'm on my way to Paris for the UN Climate Change event, So that's my big thing right now, it's saving the planet.
Good.
And so one of the things that I can do is we can do a Zoom,
Yeah.
and we can have questions and answers, and we can do a women's roundtable that I can answer some business questions. I'm really good at helping them solve problems, business problems, because I've been in the back of business schools and teaching for 36 years, entrepreneurial education, and I am financially independent. I have the life of my dreams. So I have learned quite a bit, and I'm very balanced in many areas that sometimes I don't give myself credit for. And,
Well, I will take you up on that. That
So,
sounds great. A
we'll do
Zoom
it.
and a blab, and we'll be all set.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much, DC.
Thank you.
So, ladies, there you go. It's an invitation, and I hope you step up. I'd love to see you at the next Money in You.
Aloha, bye.